Okay, is it time? I think, yeah, it's time. And we will get started and see how things go. Uh, Going to hear me breathe every breath. The Jim helped me out last week, and I don't remember what it was. What is last week was the anti-penultimate. In case you don't know what that means it's the two more after that one. So, but he looked it up instead of paying attention, which I appreciate. That I like somebody that is so curious. So he looked it up last week, and so this week is the penultimate, and next week is the final ultimate. It's the ultimate, and we will end our class after many years. It seems like it's not. You have to remember we had 4 Sundays that we did not have class. So we were during this time period. So I don't want to take the full blame for dragging this out. We had Christmas and New Year's, and felt the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and we didn't have classes, and we had a couple of other times. But it's good. It's good to finish up. I have to say, last week, I always try to start the class with a little bit of a question, kind of get everybody thinking and everybody talking. And last week, the answers blew me away, and I left after class, and I thought those answers were so good. And then I found myself during the week thinking the same thing. So I certainly appreciate the participation and the attention and the things that you share in the class, and it makes it a lot easier for me. And I appreciate all of the encouragement that I continue to receive about class, and it's but really it's I think the people that are in the class that are paying attention and really help make it a lot easier for the teacher. And so, but anyway, today, to get us started, I was thinking I've had the opportunity through my work travels to do a lot of things that most people never get to do. And I mean, I've just seen and experienced and things that I never imagined. I mean, I've been in the Forbidden City. I've walked on the Great Wall. I've been to Red Square. I've been inside the Kremlin, and I know which building is the Kremlin and which one's not. A lot of people get the church confused with the Kremlin. I've been in the Kremlin on a tour. I wasn't a spy. I was on a tour. I've been in the House of Parliament on a private tour in England. I've been in the Sydney Opera House. I've been all over. I've been to all kinds of things I never would have expected. And sometimes you just have to, it doesn't matter how well you explain something, somebody has to experience it to really appreciate it. And there's some things that are like that. And a lot of these things, I'm in the top of the Eiffel Tower, and you know what? I rode the elevator. I didn't take all the stairs. And you get out and you look out and you say, well, there's a city. It's pretty easy to explain. It's not that, is it whatever. But what have you done? What kind of things can you think of that you really just have to, that words just cannot do it justice? You cannot explain it. Jim.
In spite of being terrified of heights, I've done hang gliding and bungee jumping once, and that's enough.
But yeah, I can't even imagine what that would be like to do bungee jumping and hang gliding. I mean, I could in a million years, I might be able to talk myself to bungee jump because you're attached to something. But hang gliding, you are not attached. You're attached to only death is what you're attached to. And that would not be for me. What else? Chris.
Worked on a sailboat and was part of a regatta that sailed in Sydney past the Opera House under the Harbor Bridge.
You just can't describe. Somebody has to experience it to see that, to understand. Oh, Leanne's got one.
La- Last night, we had a couple over and they were expecting a child. And so for me, something, if you have the opportunity to experience birthing a child, and the for me, I will never experience anything more profound than birthing children. And not everybody has that opportunity. And so I'm thankful for it, and to be able to express that and to see the glow in her eye, and not fear, just the joy of that. There's nothing like it.
The fear will come later. Okay.
Mike was very confident that I had something to say. For me, probably I haven't been many times, but to leave this country, we went to see our son in Oxford, England, and for the first time, I left the United States of America in my life, and it was just so eye-opening. And I described it as a spiritual experience because, I mean, I've always thought of God as big, but it just opened my eyes that
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
huge,
Here I am.
big God.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody at home listening. Both of you. I said joke. I know they're all asleep. They're going to watch later. All right. Anybody else? Something that you? Yeah. There's some things that you just can't. You just. I run out of words, which doesn't happen very often. But I just lack the ability to describe some things. There's some, and sometimes it's the ones that you're not expecting, that is completely, that it just kind of blows you away. That a few years back we went to Victoria, and off of Victoria Island in Canada, Vancouver Island in British Columbia, and while we were there, there was a garden, and I have almost zero interest in going to a garden. I mean, that does, but we had these friends, and they were just extremely, extremely insistent that we go to see this place called Bouchard Gardens, and I was, and it's not free. If anybody was checking, it's not free to see these gardens. It's there's a hefty price tag to see these gardens, and I was like, here I am on vacation, and we're going to waste one day of our vacation going to see these gardens. Dave Dare is back there, he's laughing, he can't control himself. And let me tell you what, if you ever get a chance to see these gardens, you need to go. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what other things you have planned for that day. You should see them. It is unbelievable. And I really do not have the ability to explain. I've tried to explain to my children. I've tried to explain to friends about these gardens, and and I'm sure that they walk away just like I did the first time somebody tried to explain it to me. Oh, there's a bunch of flowers, and that's not it. That's not it. So, but sometimes Mike.
And you probably know this. The amazing thing is that's a recycled quarry. That used to be a quarry, and they planted it, and it's these beautiful gardens. Yeah,
the origins are actually it is a quarry at the oldest part of the gardens that the wife of the quarry master, she did not like being out on the island and living alone, and to bring some joy and happiness, her husband said, here, plant a flower, and she did, and didn't stop. And it was it's quite amazing. But there's some things that you just have to see them to believe them. I mean, you just cannot. Without that, it's not going to happen. And in this chapter, we're going to be in John chapter 20. And when we're here today, there are some things that you just have to see to believe. And that's going to happen a few times in this chapter. And that is, and I just think that it is an amazing chapter. Of course, it's daylight savings time, and a lot of people probably have not got up and gotten around yet and have made it to class. And that's okay. I understand. but of all the chapters to miss, this one is a pretty important one. John chapter 20 is the resurrection of Jesus, and Paul is going to write later in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and he's going to say, if the resurrection, if there is no resurrection, then Jesus is still dead. If Jesus is still dead, then he said, then the gospel and your faith are useless. And he said, if that's the case, then we of all people are most pitiful. Of all people, we should be most pitied if there is no resurrection. So this is a pretty big chapter, is my point. And so we're going to be in John chapter 20. We're going to try to get to the end here. And it's, if we remember, we left Jesus in the tomb last week. Very quickly at the end, we had Joseph and Nicodemus came, and they took Jesus away. And Nicodemus had 75 pounds of things to anoint Jesus with. And, but the women were kind of watching from the distance, and I'm sure they figured that they didn't do it right. So they're going back the next morning. They probably didn't have, a lot of scholars think they probably didn't have time, the amount of time in the day to properly prepare the body, because it was the Sabbath of of Passover. And so they said, we just have to, so they probably wanted to go back and finish and do the correct requirements of burial. And it may have been what was motivating the women to be up very early on a Sunday morning. So in verse 1 of chapter 20, it says, very early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been rolled away or been removed from the entrance. So we've gone many times throughout this study. We have stressed that the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are quite a bit different when we get to the Gospel of John. Gospel of John is out there on an island. Remember, it has no parables are included in any of the text. It only has 8 miracles. Of the 8 miracles, 6 of them are unique to John's gospel. So his gospel is a lot different